Now we've ended up marking out or calibrating our fabric for our pant. And the next thing is to join all these lines together. Now, first of all, I'm going to join both the foot lengths together. Now, joining it together, I'm going to bring it up to some certain inches, say 4 to 5 inches, depending on your choice. So I'm going to take it up. The reason is because if I should hem this part of the trouser, fold it in, it needs to come and equally form an alliance with this fabric. So if I don't bring it up this way, I curve it at this point. Now notice that the hem allowance I made, the 2 inches hem allowance I gave here, will not be enough to hem it. So that is why I have to mark a straight line and bring it up to a certain level. I usually use 4 to 5 inches. Don't worry, don't bother. I know I didn't measure it, but then, merely looking at it, I know I have a range of 4 to 5 inches here. Now we've succeeded in marking our foot. Now the next thing is joining the calf, the nail, and the laps. Now I'm going to use my, normally I'm supposed to use my pant curve or my hip curve, but because I don't have that, I have another curve here. I'm going to use it to join them together. Now first of all, I'm going to turn this curve, this part, and I'm going to join this point to my crotch length. Now this is what I have. I'm going to mark. I've marked this, joining this point to this point. Now I'm going to turn it back. Now remember I placed it this way while marking it. I'm going to turn it to the other way around to join it to my nail. Now I'm going to join the nail region to this point. Now this is what I'm going to do. Now if your curve has a longer length like mine, you can actually decide to join both the calf, the nail, and the crotch or the laps region together. So this is what I'm going to have. So that's the curve I have here. Now, after that, I'll now end up joining this point to my foot point. Now this is what we have here. Now remember, I told us that while marking, we gave a 1.5 inches inwards for our crotch curve. Now I'm going to join the point where the waist ends to the point where our crotch curve is going to start. I'm going to join them together. Now after that, using my curve, remember I made a 1.5 inches here. I could actually use my curve to curve it, but to be on a more safer side, just measure another 1.5 on the vertical axis, just the same way we did on the horizontal axis, and join it together using your curve. I can actually decide to use my free hand, but since I have my curve already, I'm going to make the curve using my curve. So this is what I have. Now, still using this as my pant curve, I'm going to join these points to all the calibrated points together. You see? Now I'm going to bring it down so I can still join it to the calf. Good. Now, likewise, I'm going to join it with my foot. Now, this is what we have for our pant curve. Now, for the waistline, I'm going to bring it down by 1 inch and slant it. Now, the reason for this is so I wouldn't have an excess bulge on the waist. So I'm going to slant this by, now some tailors usually slant to this point. Me, I usually mark 2 inches before slanting. Now these 2 inches is for my pocket level. So at these 2 inches, this is the point where I'm going to fold my pocket, of course. But all this will be after my drafting and cutting. And while I'm folding this my pocket level by 2 inches, I'll be marking 8 inches here. But of course, just like I said, all of this will be applied when sewing, so that I'll have something like this. So that I have something like this for my pocket. So while I mark the 2 inches here, I'm going to slant. I'm not going to take my slanting up to this point. I'm going to stop here. The reason is because I don't, whether I slant it up to this point or this point doesn't make any difference, since this will be going inside as my pocket, for my pocket seam. So you now notice that whether the slanting joins to that point or to this point, it doesn't make any difference. So that is why usually I make my slanting to end here at this 2 inches pocket region. So I'm going to slant. So that is all about drafting of our trouser for the two front sides. Remember, we have our two fabrics. So this part and this other part are for the two front sides, the left and the right side of the front trouser. So this is what it should actually look like. Now I'm going to switch this camera. I'm going to try and rotate this camera so that you can see it from you can have the view from the other side. Okay, this is what a trouser actually looks like. The waist region, the crotch length, which is our laps region. This is our nail length, which is the half length. The nail region, this is our calf length, where you have the calf circumference, and this is our foot region, where you have the round foot or the foot circumference. While we have the 2 inches for our hemming allowance. So is this is the look of the two sides of our pants or trouser, what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out now. Now, while cutting your trouser, you should always know that there are some parts of the trouser which is never a waste. Parts like this, never throw out these parts, because we are going to use this for our clutch flap. So I'm going to keep this. Now remember, while cutting the front panel of the trouser, I I placed my fabric this way while I was cutting. Right? This was the way I placed my fabric. Now, while cutting the back panel, because I don't have enough fabric on the other part, I'm going to turn it round this way. Now, this is what I'm going to do to cut my back panel. Now, cutting the back panel is very simple and easy. Very simple and easy. Now, I just placed my fabric. Now, what matters, what actually should decide whether your front panel goes down or up is the distance. Is the distance from the crotch curve to the remaining fabric. Now, I must always place my fabric in such a way that I'm going to get 3 inches distance here. Now, because I don't have 3 inches distance, I have to bring this up more. I'm going to bring this up more to the point where I'm going to have 3 inches. Now, at this point, I have 3 inches. I have the 3 inches allowance I needed. So I need rather. So I'm going to place it at this point. Now I'm going to mark. Now, first of all, I'm going to extend these lines. I'm just going to extend it to the down part of the fabric which I'll be using to cut my back panels. Now, first thing to do is I'm going to add 2 inches allowance here. Now, the reason is very simple. Now, we sew the trouser using a 0.5 inch allowance on every side. So, considering the trouser has 4 parts, now 0.5 inches times 4 is 2 inches. That's why we usually add 2 inches to the back panel. So the sewing allowance comes in when drafting at the back panel. So while sewing, if I should remove half inch from this side, half inch from this side. Now to the back panel, I remove half inch here, half inch there as well. You now notice that I end up removing what 2 inches, which is these 2 inches I'm adding here. But now on the crotch level, I'm going to add 3 inches. The reason is because we can never be too sure of what our lap circumference is. Now, because our laps doesn't actually go smoothly or in uniform like our nail circumference and the foot circumference or the calf circumference, we usually add an extra inch here for the excesses just to accommodate the excesses in the laps region. Now, after that, now I'm going to add an extra 1.5 inch here. Of course, this is for my bottom, the bottom sitting. So I'm going to extend this line up. Now, the extra 1.5 here is for my bottom sitting. Now I'm going to extend this by 2 inches for the back. This is the reason for the extension is that so that you now notice that most people when they sit down, when this is not properly taken care of, when they sit down, you now notice that there is a part of their bottom that usually shows. But this extension in the back panel will make sure that the back side of your trouser is covered. The back side of your trouser covers your buttocks very well. Okay. Now, why we reduce this is so that we won't have excess bulge on the front. We are extending this so that it covers your buttocks very, very well. So I already have my 1.5 inch for my sitting allowance, and I have my 2 inches extension for my buttocks. Now I'm going to join this to my front. I'm going to mark a gradient line, joining it to the front panel. Now, now the next thing is I'm going to join this line to the crotch level. Now remember, I used 1.5 for my crotch curve, so I'm still going to mark 1.5 here. Now still using my curve, I'm going to, this is my 3 inches, this is my 1.5. I'm going to mark a curve in such a way that it meets at both points. So this is what we have. Okay, now that is it. That's all for our back panel. Okay, the next thing is I'm going to equal just the same way I did for our front panel. I'm going to make sure I join these curves, these points, these calibrations together. So I've joined this. Same way, likewise, I'm going to join it, joining the knee to the calf, then bringing it. Remember, I'm going to extend this. I'm going to extend this to some inches up, say 4 to 5 inches. Then I'm going to join it with our calf. All right. So this is what I have. So this is what I have for my back panel. So I'm just going to proceed immediately to cut. So that is it for our front panel and our back panel. Remember, I said this is the wrong side of the fabric, and also this is the wrong side of the fabric. So, ladies and gentlemen, that comes to the end of our tutorial for the pants drafting and cutting. Now, of course, we'll still notice that I have an extra piece cut out here. Now, this part is where I'm going to be using for my waistband when sewing. So this is the part I'll be using for my waistband when sewing or joining the fabrics together. Thank you all for watching. Remember, if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please kindly do so. And if you are yet to click on that notification button, please do so so you can always be the first to watch our tutorial videos when it comes up next. Thank you all and have a lovely night rest. Good night.